The Hindu Kush Himalayas, one of the world's most important mountain systems, has been making headlines over the past year due to the severe impacts of climate change on the region. In June 2023, the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development warned that up to 75% of the glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayas could disappear by 2100 if global warming continues unabated. This would have devastating consequences for the 240 million people living in the mountains and the 1.65 billion people downstream who depend on rivers fed by these glaciers for water. In August 2023, the Indian Himalayas experienced a series of catastrophic landslides and floods triggered by cloudbursts, resulting in over 500 deaths and $1.2 billion in damages, particularly in the state of Himachal Pradesh. Experts say such climate disasters will become more frequent and severe in the coming decades as glaciers continue to melt at an unprecedented rate. Recognizing the urgent need for action, the Asian Development Bank launched a new initiative in December 2023 to assess and manage climate risks in the Hindu Kush Himalayas. In February 2024, 130 global experts declared the region a biosphere on the brink and called for massive investments to address the looming ecological crisis before it's too late. Stretching 3,500 kilometers from Afghanistan in the west to Myanmar in the east, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is one of the world's most important yet often overlooked mountain systems. Aptly called the Third Pole, these majestic ranges contain the largest volume of ice outside the polar regions of the Arctic and Antarctica. The Hindu Kush Himalayan mountains are the birthplace of 10 major Asian river systems, including the Ganges, Indus, Brahmaputra, Mekong, and Yangtze, which serve as lifelines for drinking water, irrigation, energy production, and other essential needs for over 1.6 billion people downstream, nearly 20% of the global population. However, climate change poses an existential threat to this fragile ecosystem and the communities that depend on it. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region is a vast mountain system spanning over 3,500 kilometers across 8 countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. Some of the major mountain ranges in Hindu Kush Himalayan region are 1. Hindu Kush Range, an 800-kilometer long range stretching from central Afghanistan to northern Pakistan and Tajikistan, with peaks averaging 4,500 meters in height. 2. Karakoram. Located in the border region of Pakistan, India, and China, it contains some of the highest peaks in the world, including K2-3. Himalayas, the world's highest mountain range extending over 2,400 kilometers from Pakistan to Bhutan, with iconic peaks like Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga 4. Pamir Mountains, situated at the junction of the Hindu Kush, Karakoram, and Tian Shan ranges, known as the Roof of the World. The Tibetan Plateau is also a major feature of this region. It is the world's highest and largest plateau, with an average elevation of 4,500 meters, spanning 2.5 million kilometers in China, India, and other neighboring countries. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region is the source of 10 major river systems that provide water, ecosystem services, and livelihoods to over 1.9 billion people. 1. Amu Darya originates in the Pamir Mountains and flows through Central Asia. 2. Indus starts in Tibet and flows through India and Pakistan before emptying into the Arabian Sea. 3. Ganges begins in the western Himalayas and flows through India and Bangladesh. 4. Brahmaputra originates in Tibet and flows through India and Bangladesh. 5. Irrawaddy rises in the Himalayas and flows through Myanmar. 6. Salween starts in Tibet and flows through China, Myanmar, and Thailand. 7. Mekong begins in Tibet and flows through 6 countries in Southeast Asia. 8. Yangtze, the longest river in Asia, originating in Tibet and flowing through China. 9. Yellow River, the second longest river in China, starting in the Bayanhar Mountains. 10. Tarim originates in the Pamir and Tian Shan Mountains and flows through northwest China. These rivers are fed by the vast reserves of snow and ice in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, which is why it is often called the Third Pole or the Water Tower of Asia. Sudan has been gripped by a devastating conflict since mid-April 2023, when fighting erupted between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The violence has led to a severe humanitarian crisis, with over 3.4 million people forced to flee their homes, both within Sudan and to neighboring countries. The conflict has taken a particularly heavy toll on children, with an estimated 1,200 children dying amid the healthcare crisis. The war has also impacted Indian citizens in Sudan. In response, the Indian government launched Operation Kaveri to evacuate stranded Indians. The operation successfully rescued 3,162 Indians. Among those caught in the conflict were members of the nomadic Hakki-Pikki tribe from Karnataka, who had traveled to Sudan to sell herbal medicines. The western region of Darfur has been hit especially hard by the conflict. The Rapid Support Forces and allied militias have been accused of committing atrocities against civilians, particularly targeting the Masalit ethnic group. The violence has sparked fears of a return to the genocidal campaign that devastated Darfur 2 decades ago. The UN estimates that over 5.7 million people have been forced from their homes since the conflict began in April 2023, with 25 million, more than half of Sudan's population, now in need of humanitarian assistance. Sudan is located in northeastern Africa. It is bordered by 7 countries: Egypt to the north, Libya to the northwest, Chad to the west, the Central African Republic to the southwest, South Sudan to the south, Ethiopia to the southeast, and Eritrea to the east. Sudan also has a 530-mile coastline along the Red Sea to the northeast. The Nile River is Sudan's most prominent topographical feature and the country's primary water source. The White Nile and Blue Nile are the 2 major tributaries of the Nile that merge at Khartoum, Sudan's capital city. The White Nile flows north from South Sudan, while the Blue Nile originates in Ethiopia. Other major tributaries include the Bahr el Ghazal, Sobat, and Atbara rivers. Sudan is generally flat with mountains in the far south, northeast, and west. The highest point is Deriba crater at 3042 meters, located in the Mara Mountains in the west. The Red Sea Hills run along the northeastern border with Eritrea. In the southeast, near the border with South Sudan, are the Didinga Hills, Dongotona Mountains, and Imatong Mountains, which rise to over 3,000 meters. Deserts dominate northern Sudan. The Nubian Desert lies to the east of the Nile, while the Libyan Desert is located to the west. These regions receive virtually no rainfall and consist of stony plains with sandy dunes. Southern Sudan, now the independent nation of South Sudan, consists of tropical rainforests, swamps, and grasslands. The Sud is a vast swamp formed by the White Nile. Darfur has been the epicenter of much of the recent violence in Sudan. The conflict between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces has hit the region particularly hard. The RSF and allied Arab militias have been accused of targeting the ethnic Masalit population in West Darfur state. Darfur is a region in western Sudan, covering an area of approximately 44,000 square kilometers. The region is predominantly a semi-arid plain, with the Mara Mountains in the center reaching heights of 42 meters at Deriba crater, Sudan's highest point. The Mara Mountains are a volcanic range that extends for about 180 kilometers north-south. They receive higher rainfall than the surrounding plains, supporting greater vegetation and animal life. Outside the mountains, Darfur is primarily a plateau. The landscape consists of sandy soils, grasslands, and scattered trees. Rainfall is scarce and variable, leading to frequent droughts.